All right, good morning or afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Periphery's object recognition model. Today with me, it is the famous Jason Perr, our CTO of M&E Solutions here at Perifery. Jason, you want to say hello?
Hello, thank you.
And myself, the AI sales manager here at Perifery. So today, like I said, we're going to do a deep dive into our object recognition model. And we've been getting a lot of questions about this over the past couple months. And we felt like it would be best to get it kind of situated into a nice, easy to listen to podcast so that you guys can get a better understanding of where we come from and where we're going. So to start with, one of the number one questions we get at Perifery is, why is your model only local, or why are you guys driving people to use local models in the AI world?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that's really at the foundation of a lot of the things that we're doing in AI. When we first started testing AI models, just like most people, we went online and went to places like Google and Amazon and tested a lot of the things that you could do with online AI models. And the first thing I noticed was that those bills add up really, really fast. I think literally in the first day of testing, we probably hit over $100 in usage of just things that we were testing with a small handful of videos. So by changing over to running things locally, what we found is it's a little bit more difficult to be able to do it, and it's a lot more options that are out there. But when you do it right, it can be tremendously powerful and a lot more valuable to a lot of customers that have large amounts of data. Because by running that content through locally, now all you have to do is pay for your infrastructure, pay for your license, but it doesn't matter if you're processing 500 clips or 5 million clips, there's no per second fee. So that lack of having to pay for every single bit of content you process was one of the big motivators in being able to run things with local AI models.
Yeah, I would 100% agree, and I will just comment that a number of our competitors, in fact, most of our competitors, are all offering cloud-based AI models, and we are seeing feedback constantly from people that switch over to us or are considering switching over to us, that they're already spending over $100,000 a year on one singular AI model. So just with that in mind, it is definitely of interest in the industry right now. How do we get this on-prem? How do we get this into our own environment? Okay, so our object detection model though. So when you're talking about object detection models and you're talking about cost, I just want to highlight one final thing, and that's that object detection in particular can be a very expensive part of running any sort of AI. And if you're running it more than once, every single time you want to add a new field or search for a new thing, that is going to be like another, at least what, $1, maybe $2 per video. So that could be quite expensive. Okay, so for object detection and recognition, there is, well, I guess I misphrased that, but a lot of times in the industry, you hear these two words spoken about interchangeably. And so I wanted to see if we could get some clarification on our model being an object recognition model and some of the others in the market that profess that they're object detection.
Yeah, definitely. So object detection is something that a lot of people are familiar with. It's been around for a long time. And when you're thinking about object detection, that's where people tend to think about having to train on every single object that you want to be able to find. So classic object detection required hundreds or thousands of images that you would have to actually run through and draw bounding boxes around every object that you ever wanted to be able to find later on within your video or your images. Now this has gotten a lot better because now we have some large standard object models like the YOLO models. YOLO stands for you only look once. And the idea of that model is that they packed in a lot of the common models or common objects that people were always searching for into one large set. So that's great to be able to find standard things like a car or a plane or a pencil or a water bottle. So a lot of those standard everyday objects now, if you use a YOLO model, you can detect and find those specific things. However, where it tends to break down is when you want to get more detail. If I don't want to just find a car, but I want to find a Ferrari, I want to find a Lamborghini, I want to find a Tesla. In the traditional object detection world, I would have to make sure I was using a model that was already trained on, or I'd have to train it by myself on hundreds or thousands of images of each one of those different cars. What we decided to do was take a different approach with what we call object recognition, where we combine an object model, which would find a car, with a vision model. And a vision model is something that can actually look at an image and then provide back a specific response or description of what it is that it's seeing. And so by doing that, we use the object model to find the car, and then we can ask the vision model, which car is this? And that's how we can get a response that this car is a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or something else. And we're able to do that in a way that we can train it specifically to just know, hey, here's the set of cars I care about, and then be able to ask those questions in a controlled way to be able to get even better results. But the cool thing is, out of the box, if you're looking for any kind of common object, like a recent car, something that's been out in the last 5 to 10 years even, you don't have to train it at all. And you can get really powerful results with no training, virtually out of the box, very specific to your workflow.
Got it. And so you mentioned specifically the vision model, and you often mention a number of other models. Would you say that our object detection, first and foremost, would you consider this one of those throwaway words that you hear all the time, is multimodal? Would you consider our object detection model to be a multimodal AI model?
So not necessarily. Multimodal is almost a different kind of beast, right? Our entire AI Plus platform is multimodal. Multimodal being that we can identify and work with images, with videos, with documents, right? We can work with any kind of content that comes in, and those different modalities is what that's actually talking about, is the kinds of content we understand or are able to do, right? So the other big piece, though, is in addition to being able to handle both images and videos in the case of object recognition, we also have the ability to leverage multiple models. So when we talk about having a model that understands something like all the different cars and being trained on knowing, or a general model that understands all these different things, but then being able to ask about cars, where it gets more interesting is when we do want to do training, is when we want to get extra specific about something that a vision model wouldn't even be able to detect. And so one of the examples we talk about there is if you had a company that sold something really basic, like a vacuum cleaner, right? And your average person thinks of a vacuum cleaner, they just think the word vacuum cleaner. Your average object recognition model or object detection model is just going to be able to find a standard vacuum cleaner and only know that one term. So if you want to get really specific to find specific brands and specific makes and models of that object, that's where we want to do some training, or we want to be able to grab something that's already been trained on a large data set.
And where would you go for that currently? Where does our team use?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So for us, we knew one thing, which was we didn't want to have to train all those things ourselves, because there's way too many options out there. And historically, again, a lot of people have shied away from doing object detection because of this fear of this large amount of training that would have to go into to be able to configure it just for your specific content. But found is a web application called RoboFlow. And the RoboFlow team has been doing this for a very long time. And they have some really, really powerful software that's simplified the process of tagging those images to be able to create these powerful object recognition and object detection data sets. And the best part is they've made their platform something that's a place to be able to host a tremendous amount of open source object models. And they literally have over 100,000 models that you can choose from. So what we've done is made our system fully compatible with the formats that they use, so that any model of those 100,000 plus models available, you could download, drop it in, and within 5 minutes have it up and running within AI Plus to be able to start detecting those objects. And even better, you can take any one of those models that has a lot of content like what you want to do. For example, logos. There's a lot of models out there that are already trained on hundreds or thousands of different logos, but they might not be trained great on your logo or the 5 logos you specifically care about. So you can leverage their platform to do a little bit of training and throw in a couple hundred images of the specific logos you care about. And now that model is going to perform extremely well on the ones you care about, as all these other generic ones. And so that's what we really talk about and refer as kind of a level 2 object recognition or object detection play within the Perifery world. Level 1, you don't have to train it all. Yeah.
Let's take a step back then and let's go through. So we use RoboFlow to do our more advanced level training. Level 2, you called it. But if there's a level 2, there is a level 1, like you said, no training. So let's go through just from the start. What are the 3 different levels of our object recognition model training? Because I know you mentioned 1 and 2, and I know you didn't say 3, but I happen to know that there is a 3rd. So with that in mind, yeah, go ahead. What are the 3 levels of our object recognition?
Yeah. So the 3 levels of object recognition that we have inside of Perifery right now, you have level 1, which requires no training whatsoever. Level 1 leverages an object model as well as a model so that you can just ask for things like a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. And again, with no training, be able to find it, because the object model can find a car, the vision model can understand what kind of car it is, and that can give you a response. Then you get to level 2. Level 2 is where customers on their own or through their integration partner can actually do training of a model specifically on your content. And that's where, again, going back to a vacuum cleaner example, we don't just find a vacuum cleaner anymore, we find that specific make and specific model of vacuum cleaner, or that specific make and specific model of whatever else you want to find, even down to finding different kinds of messes the vacuum's going to clean up. That training can be done in a way that's been optimized through the RoboFlow team, which is why we partnered with them in this project here, to be able to be a really simple, fast training that gives you a really powerful model. Then we get to level 3. And level 3 is where it gets really fun, is we've taken a vision model and be able to apply some custom prompting to that vision model, in addition to training an object model. And the example we tend to talk about here is if you look at something like a poker game, and within a poker game, your standard object model might be able to detect things like cards. It might detect specific cards. You might have something that detects logos on the table. But when we combine a vision model plus an object model, now we can detect poker hands. And we can tell you the combination of the cards between what's in a player's hand and what's in the pot, to be able to put together and say, player 1 has a straight, player 2 has 2 of a kind, and player 3 has a straight flush. So the current winner right now is player 3. And then we could even go on to tell you how much money that player bet, how much money is in the pot at any given point in time, what the percentage odds are of that player winning versus the other players. All sorts of really important, valuable data we can actually understand through level 3 recognition to provide tremendous value to the business.
Yeah. And if you're thinking about that level 3, one thing that I would like to point out is that when you get that audio, visual transcript of what's actually occurring on screen, and you're using that in the background to build this story, you really do get a full visual story of what's occurring. So what you're not saying is, what you're summarizing is like, yeah, you can tell who's going to win the game, but that what happens in between, what happens that entire video of that poker game is also capable of being told, and therefore searched across. So just something to point out that this model can go very, very far. And so we might even want to call that level 4, but we'll just call it level 3 for now. So I'm getting the feeling that with 3 levels of training, there's a lot of monetary potential and a lot of industries that could be affected by this. We touched on one, you were talking about vacuums. So to start with, what in your opinion, what are the first industries that should be implementing object recognition models like our AI plus object recognition model?
So to me, really, it's any kind of organization that has multiple products that they're selling. A lot of times consumer products, especially, because those consumer product companies often want to display that product in multiple different environments and multiple different use cases, often going out to different kinds of audiences. If you look at someone like an organization that sells sporting goods and different kinds of gear, a lot of times they could be selling everything from basketballs and basketball shoes to hiking equipment or climbing equipment. And those can be very different audiences across very different age range. So because of that, they have to take the content that they create, showcasing that product, and be able to consistently repurpose it and repackage it and push it into various different channels between their OTT deliveries. They could be going out to, the Netflix and the Hulus and different places like that for advertising, but then also pushing out to web channels and then TikTok and then all sorts of various different places. And so from
YouTube Shorts, etc.
Exactly. And from a marketing perspective, you want to be able to know what content you have based off of the product you're currently working with. You don't want to have to go back and search based off of video titles or remembering what that campaign was you did last year, or remembering, whatever other details someone might have logged on that video. You want to just know, hey, we have a new promotion that's coming up to be able to sell this product. I want to know everywhere we've used this product, or I want to know every video or image we have of this product with this person. And that's where we can start to combine things like our object recognition with our facial recognition, right? So you want to be able to empower your team to be able to find that content based on the product itself, not based off of production information, right?
Sure.
So that's a big place that we're seeing people be able to really monetize and get a huge value out of the object recognition in that kind of brand product space.
Sure. Now let's make you do the same thing again, but with another industry. So let's talk about like where we started out in the M&E space. That's where we, got our roots here. So if you had to use this same example or a similar example, but from a production or post-production standpoint, where would you see this model fitting in and assisting clients in being able to monetize their content?
Definitely. So one of the big ones is product placement, right? A lot of times we have product placement deals that go into effect for a TV series. And that product placement deal is going to say that a certain product is supposed to be shown on screen for X amount of airtime across, an entire episode. Or maybe there's been a contract in place for that product to be featured for X amount of airtime across a series or across an entire season. And currently, the only way to actually find out if that happened is to go back and search through a bunch of logs, talk to editors, have them scanning through videos. In reality, it just doesn't happen.
Manually tag it with time-based metadata yourself, one
Yeah.
video at a time.
Exactly. It just doesn't happen. And so it's kind of a lot of that business, unfortunately, is on a bit of a trust me clause of the production company saying, yeah, we made sure it's going to have that proper amount of airtime, and people believing that, yes, that's going to actually happen. But then as things get cut down, as different time slots change, as different commercial breaks get added, it's very possible that those things could slip. So being able to have AI actually not only find the objects, but track the duration of how long those objects actually are on screen, which when we run our object recognition, we're not just marking an object's found here, we're marking the object was found starting at this time code and ending at that time code, so that we're always showing a range of when it was found. And using that information either through APIs to our system, through APIs with your asset management system, depending on what asset management system you have, it might just be there already. But you have ways, because we've provided the information, that you can extract all sorts of powerful reporting. So that's one use case. Another one is also just in the tracking of items when you talk about continuity. And now continuity in a single scene, sure, you have script supervision and you have your standard different kinds of things that people always do. But when we talk about continuity across multiple episodes or across an entire season of TV shows, that's where, again, it can get a little more complicated to try and find those things. So you want to make sure they're using the same phone they used in the last episode, or the same, car that was used in the last episode. Those different kinds of things, this object recognition can help answer those questions quickly and be able to search across that content.
Got it. So I know I could have you go on all day about all different use cases, and I would be happy to do a longer form video of us going through specific use cases for a variety of industries. But I believe, I think we've done a good job of giving a nice detailed summary of what our object recognition model can do today. So I will table that discussion for the future when we finish doing our series here on the 3 different types of models that were currently on offer. I think we will plan to do one final one where we combine the use cases of all of them, just to showcase how you guys can really take advantage of the entire suite of our products to get your videos ingested into AI Plus and out and monetized as soon as you can. Jason, thank you for your time today. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we will talk to you next week on our next podcast. I hope you have a good day.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye, guys.